So today we're looking at the axle assembly, and the initial plan was to remove the rear axle on the car and get things ready to put the new one on, which has recently arrived. Unbeknown to me, the rear axle, if you didn't already know, is actually secured by a 16mm bolt, and my socket set and my spanner set, funny enough, doesn't actually have a 16mm socket. So I've had to order one of those, so that's not going to happen today, although that's only going to be a matter of minutes for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep up the axle that was supplied to me by the local breaker's yard. Now this axle's actually come off of a car that's apparently has only done 40,000 miles, so is pretty rust free. However, I'm going to strip it all back down. Take all the bits and pieces off of it, all the brake parts. We're going to wire brush it up and give it a coat of black paint, just so it looks a little bit fresher underneath, and it's also nice and clean to get on with, and hopefully it's going to prolong the life of it, and we won't end up in the same situation that we are with this one, with a big hole in it. So let me show you what we're going to do with that. Here we go. So here we are, we're out in the garage. We've got the replacement axles on the workbench, and we're starting to strip it out. Remove all the bits and pieces on it, all the brake pipes, the shock absorbers are coming off, and we're giving it a little bit of a grind down. I'm just going to tidy it up, get rid of all the flakiness on it. I'm not going to be painting any other colour, it's just going to go straight back into black, and put a new set of shock absorbers on there, and replace the brake parts as required. And that'll be it. So the next, hopefully you'll see that in a bit of primer in a moment. Okay, so like a nana, I went and put primer on it without taking a video. So here we are with it all blacked up. It's not the smoothest in the world, but it will be a lot easier and cleaner for me and anybody else who works on the car to actually work with this. There won't be any flakes of rust falling in their face or lumps of grease to annoy them. Obviously, I haven't done the hubs. We need heat resistant for the hubs. Not that I'm going to be driving the thing at high speed. Plus the fact there's going to be quite a bit of brake fluid floating around as well, so which might actually end up stripping off the paint that we put on. So I'll deal with that once that's actually on. But the main chassis member, front and back side of it, all nice and black, all blacked up, ready to go. So when I put the lines on, I will do a tutorial on that as well, but I've got those little bits on order, and no doubt we'll cover that at a later stage, maybe a video or two down the line. Okay, so we're in the process now of trying to swap over the axle, and in some of the previous videos I've shown you basically just trying to prep up the new one as best as we can. We stripped off all of the old bits and pieces of it to give it, before we give it a coat of paint, and now we're going to move to the car and see what we can do here. Here we go. So obviously we're going to need it up in the air, we're going to need the wheels off, we're going to need an axle stand on it, getting back to this safety first thing. What we can see then is basically what we've got, and if we give everything a good coating of penetrating fluid, I've been doing that for the last couple of days, just try and make things a little bit easier. So on this side, what you can see is I've stripped off most of the bits and pieces, taken the handbrake assembly off, so the cable is now just lying at the back of the axle, which obviously means I need to have removed it from the hub assembly itself. We've freed up the bolts on the unit here, and also for the suspension strut as well have been eased up as well. All right. Underneath, it's a bit of a nightmare. What we can see is these here are completely shot. I mean, it's like, as I said, it seems this car's actually been stood in water for quite some time, so as much penetrating fluid as I've got on these are just rounding off, even with a specialist spanner, which takes me up then to the flexi cables or pipes at the top here, and they're even seized up the top here as well, so it looks like I'm going to end up having to replace this line here unless I'm permitted to actually join it, which I don't see why not. But basically what I'm going to do to get the axle down, I'm going to cut this cable here we've freed off all of the handbrake cable. I'm now going to just go and do the other side as well, which is obviously over there. Speak to you in a moment. So for the removal of the rear axle, you need to drop the suspension, and that's done because of this bolt in the on the top of the shock absorber. Now this one's actually come off, and this one won't come off. It's evident someone's had a go at it before me. It's a bit mashed. It's not coming off, so I'm going to need a specialist to actually remove that. So for this side, we're going to go and tackle it from the axle end. Bottom of the shock absorber bolt. The brake pipes have been cut, and I've put a bung in the end of the flexi pipe. So now that's all actually free, and we've drawn the bolt out from here. So this is now all floating and is supported by the trolley jack in the middle at the moment. I'm now going to go and do the other side. Okay, so one of the questions I keep getting asked, basically, what's the size of the toolkit? Have you bought anything special? And that kind of thing. So I'm going to quickly run through what I've got. As I said, I do have a history where I was a panel beater in a former life, but I haven't actually worked in that environment for over 20 odd years. So haven't got anything here that is a remnant of that. What I've literally got is a couple of socket sets, and I've had to try and build from that. So let me show you what items I've recently purchased. Okay, so what tools have I got in my workshop? So the first one here, my son was kind enough to buy for me one Christmas, this little tool set, which is ideal for some stay-at-home dad who's got a car and wants to do a little bit of something on it at the weekend. It's a 3/8 drive, so the mid-range, full socket set on here, Torx pieces, loads of them, a nice range of spanners, metric and AF Allen keys, couple of pliers, drawer for your bits and bobs down the bottom there. I've got a toolbox here which I just collect just about anything and everything. It's got all my odds and sods in it. Lots of bits and pieces in here. Anything left over from old socket sets are in here, Torx pieces, various bits and bobs down the bottom there, cable ties and things like that, wire strippers, trim removing tools, that kind of thing. So, you know, just odds and sods. But if we're starting to strip the cars down and we're dealing with axle work and engine work, then we're going to need something a little bit bigger. So I went out and I purchased this little bad boy. So this is a 1/2 inch drive socket set. The question here is, how deep is your pocket? Because you can really go to town if you want. I really was only after a 1/2 inch set because I feel I've got sufficient of everything else. But this was out there, it was 40 quid. It comes with a load of the hex drive units, so yeah, all down here, all the bigger stuff. We've got star bolts, star sockets, so I'm going to need some of those at some point. 1/2 inch drive, so nice and robust, and it goes up to a 32mm socket up here. And if you notice, they're all 6-sided as well, which is ideal, right? Grips the nut or the bolt all round, so we don't end up with it shearing round. For me, this really suited it. It was on eBay, it was 40 quid, job done. Really pleased with that purchase. You can't work on a car and do your brakes without a brake pipe tool. So this is a Draper one, made by Draper. You can see that up the right way up. And what we've got a 10mm and 11mm 5-sided spanner. So this is supposed to stop your spanner from spinning. I've used it once or twice on this car. Unfortunately, my vehicle's that rusty that what is actually there has disappeared. Is just little round stubs. So I would say under normal circumstances where you're going to use this, this is going to be an essential tool for anybody's toolkit. I've been doing quite a bit of welding, so I've already gone through the welder that I purchased the other day. This was £150 from Machine Mart. Not a vast expense there, but it's ideal for what we need to do here. I've gone gasless, and the reason for that, as I said before, the horrors of actually running out of gas at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening when you're halfway through your project and not being able to do anything because you've got no gas. That's behind me now. I bought a couple of rolls of wire, a couple of extra tips. As long as the thing is actually working, I can weld up all night long. So spot on for that. I wasn't happy with the little handheld visor, so I went out and I bought this. Now again, like the socket set, however much you want to spend, you can actually you can spend on this. This was again another 20 odd pound, under 30 quid, and it's the automatic darkening lens on there. Ideal for what I need. Weld up a few patches in the inside of the car underneath. Not have to worry about that. It's not got all the fancy paintwork over it, no fancy logos. I've seen these being advertised a couple of £100, and I just beg what you spend that kind of money on that kind of helmet. How different can it be? So there's a few things. Your obligatory stuff. You're going to need a trolley jack. You're going to need a couple of stands. You're going to need all the safety gear. You're going to need the gloves. You're going to need your goggles and that kind of stuff. The other thing you're going to need is a lot of time and a lot of patience as well. One little lesson I have found has paid dividends for me on this project is clearing up about every hour or so. I'm actually working outside. I've got a tarpaulin which I can drag out over the front of the garage, but my car is actually right out the front of the garage. There it is. Very little protection for me. And when it just starts to get a bit rainy or a bit wet, the fact that I've actually cleared up, not too far away, has paid dividends for me. I'm not sitting in a sea of mud or rust, and the tools have been put away. And when I get to the end of the evening, literally I'm looking at my socket set and I can see exactly what's missing. So that is a big bonus. Bear in mind that we spend a lot of money on these tools, and the other thing is it's a bit of a more healthy environment to actually work in. We've got a lot of brake dust, we've got petrol, we've got rust, and all sorts of other horrible nasties floating around here. And if you're clearing that up on a regular basis, if something nasty does happen, it's not going to be perhaps worse than it could be, if you get what I'm saying. And it's a good practice to have. The other thing about being out in the garage is occasionally the wife brings you a nice cup of tea and a bit of cake. Okay, so I'm waiting for the brake parts to arrive. I thought I'd have a little crack at the wheel arch and inner wheel arch assemblies. Let me show you what we found in there. Here we go. So we've got the usual big holes at the ends of the sills and the usual big holes at the back end here, running all the way up inside. So bearing in mind this is a sort of a rebuild, not a restoration, what I started to do is put panels or plates in, give strength around where we hang the bumper on, and try and make this a little bit more waterproof. And then I've got something then solid to hang a repair patch for the inside of the wheel arch on. All right, I'm going to be cutting this piece out here and putting a new panel in there. All down here has all been all still okay. At the bottom I've got a little bit of a hole, so there's a little bit of patching to do on the outside. I'm going to try and keep it within this swage line, so when the bits go back on, until I get a repaint, it's going to look half reasonable. Just depends how good I am at actually welding at this point here. So maybe try to keep it cool, keep a cold rag on it to keep the distortion and paint damage down a little bit. But we're moving forward. See here is on the quarter panel where there was one of these holes. This bit here completely disappeared, So what I've done is I've cut the original piece out, keeping it as small as I possibly can, and that's taking it up to this line here. I know that's going to affect the paint north of this line, but I'm going to try and keep it as small as I possibly can. I'm then going to graft in this new piece of metal. Now what you'll notice is this has actually got a natural edge on it, and I saved this piece of metal from the back panel. Now I know it's not going to be seen, but any time that you're doing anything like this is going to give you the opportunity to try and further your skill moving forward. And one of the things is obviously trying to end up with a nice panel. Now there is a big hole up the back up here as well, so the fact that I've got this little edge on here, maybe that could help me secure a piece of metal up there, make it easier to weld to. So a little bit of lateral thinking might save you a little bit of heartache later on down the line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently just fill this in all the way round, bit by bit, so we don't distort it. Weld here, weld there, let it cool, weld here, weld there, let it cool, and then hopefully this will all go back on without distorting all of the top panel up here. So what you can see here is on the bottom of the chassis leg, I've drilled some holes in my panel. What I'm trying to do is actually pull that to the body frame along there, and then I've tacked it along the top. I'm going to go run weld it all the way around again, just to make sure that she's all good. But it's important to get some good strong welds into the original panel on your new panel as well. So what you can see up here is the rust inside the wheel arch edge. We've had to try and get back to good metal, so I've used a standard blowtorch and just gently warm the sealant, the black under seal on here. Don't try and burn it off, and then gently scrape it back, and then using a wire wheel just getting the residual off. And we get that all back, so we've got some good shiny metal that we can weld to. Next bit, I'm just going to cut those rusty bits out and try and make it a little bit tidier. So thanks for spending the day with me. I hope you got something out of it. Just as a bit of a recap, this video we've got the axle off. The new axle is virtually prepped. Most of the welding's done on the back end. Back panel's finished off. And we're pretty much in a situation where we can start to rebuild the new axle in the next video and get that offered back up to the car. So until next time, thank you very much. If you like the videos, please subscribe. If you press the bell icon, you'll get a notification every time there's a new one. And if you are enthused, there's currently 5 videos in this series so far, and I'm sure there'll be some more. Until the next, speak soon. Bye bye.